There's obviously been a lot of discussion about Diablo 3 recently, due to login issues and lag even in single player. I thought I'd quickly go over the choices I think they've made, why I think they did it, and why it's caused so many issues. A lot of people have jumped on the DRM bandwagon, but I don't think that's it. Really, it all boils down to concessions being made to make the real money auction house work. Hackers are a smart bunch, but keygens and the like aren't the only problem they cause. For a purely single player experience, it doesn't really matter. If you want to run a hack that makes you invincible or gives you the best items, hey, that's your lookout. But in multiplayer games, anything you mess about with can ruin the experience for other people. In a game where characters are persistent and build up over extended periods, this can be game breaking. When anyone can download a program to take their character files and give themselves every ability and the best items, or use cheats to make themselves invincible or move around at high speed, it puts players at an unfair advantage. With Diablo 2 they switched things up a bit, with a few ways to play. You could obviously play in single player where everything was on your computer. Then there was the standard multiplayer like in Diablo 1. Although the game sessions were online, each player was still using their unverified clients with potentially hacked characters. Finally, they introduced realms. In this mode, you set up a separate character on their server, with the game sessions also in their servers. Because the server and all of its data was in Blizzard's hands, they could keep a much tighter hold on things. You can't just alter your character file anymore because you don't have it, and the server will detect if your copy of the game is trying to move the character around faster than they should. This kind of architecture would work well for them later in World of Warcraft. One important aspect of games like World of Warcraft is the game's economy. Players work together to beat the hardest challenges to get the best equipment, but these kind of items are very rare. The more valuable something is, the harder it is to get hold of. This keeps more players invested for longer, forging stronger bonds, as they work together to try and get everyone what they need. If every player could get the best equipment easily, they wouldn't have anything to work towards, so there'd be no fun in the late game. The MMO model fits this perfectly, as with everything taking place in the developers' servers, they can control this economy and make sure there's enough items going around to keep everyone interested, but not so many that they can get them easily. With Diablo 3's real money auction house, this is even more important. Real money is involved. If the economy isn't watched carefully, you could find the market flooded with low-cost, high-power items, the prices dropping dramatically, and then everyone either just buys their way to victory and the game is ruined, or everyone stops using the auction facility because there's not enough return on investment and the game is ruined. So how do you structure the game so that this doesn't happen? One way might be to use the same model as Diablo 2. You can play single player on your computer, multiplayer using your locally stored character, or multiplayer entirely on Blizzard servers. But is that the best idea? For one thing, it means that anything you do in single player can never carry over to multiplayer. Imagine you get a really cool item that you think will sell for a lot, but oops, you're in the wrong game mode. Better just throw that away. And having two separate but identical multiplayer modes seems really weird in this day and age. Imagine how confusing people would find it. We're in an era where game manuals are almost obsolete, but you want to try and explain to people the difference between multiplayer and Realms multiplayer? Another solution might be to allow characters to be played online or offline, but have some kind of flag on items to say where they were gained and only let players trade or sell items that they got online. This seems to make sense but kind of falls apart once you examine it. How do you show the player that they can trade this sword but not that one? Can players still use their offline items online? Doesn't that just mean all the game ruining hacks will return? If they can't use them, does that mean all my items just disappear when I play with friends? Do they reappear if I go offline again? What if I already filled my inventory online? Does the game keep the offline items or overwrite them with the online ones? Where does it store my inventory, online or offline? If it's offline, can't I just hack my items to say I got them online? And if it stores them online, how do I get to it if I'm offline? So Blizzard were basically faced with two choices. Either split the single player from the multiplayer entirely, making any progress on the single player side essentially worthless when you go to multiplayer, or run everything server side, even the single player campaign. I mean, it seems so obvious, right? Players can seamlessly use their characters with friends or alone. Everything you do means something. You can even invite your friends into your single player session whenever you want. And the best bit is no one ever has to worry about hacked items or cheating clients because everything is server controlled. Capacity shouldn't be an issue. I mean, this is the company that runs the single biggest MMO there is. If there's one gaming company that understands how to have millions of players all connected at once without causing a problem, it's Blizzard, right? Well, we all know how that's panning out. So many people have been trying to connect at once, they're crying out for an offline single player mode so that they can just play the game, which will probably never come because the game's not set up that way. Now, sure, they'll resolve that over the coming weeks, but no matter what happens, you now have a single player game marred by all the issues of a multiplayer game. If you don't have the net, you can't play. If your bandwidth is too low, you might get booted. If you had bad ping, you can get terrible lag. I've experienced this firsthand. Monsters jumping around the area, my character snapping back to the same place over and over again, attacks not coming out until a second after I made them. And as single player experiences go, it's jarring. And no matter what fixes Blizzard makes at their end, there are always going to be players with a poor connection who'll get all of these. And of course, whenever Blizzard closes its doors and the servers go down, it'll all just stop.